Good morning. You start out by apologizing. I am fighting through a cold, so if I start coughing and have to get off the stage or fall down from too much cough medicine, let me apologize in advance. Thank you all for being here. I know that your time is important, and I know that we all have other things we wish we had time to do. I did want to give a little bit of background about me, first of all. Well, wait a second. I got to figure out where I'm at. I work in Frisco ISD as the director of business applications and process. I've been there, this is my 10th year, but my background is not K-12. I know that many of the folks here that are K-12, we've met before or we've spoken, I'm sure. But my background is actually almost 30 years at Electronic Data Systems and EDS, or EDS and HP, and I spent a great amount of time looking at enterprise technology and business process improvement. At time at EDS, I worked in a lot of different industries. I worked in banking and insurance and manufacturing. I've done literally dozens of implementations all around the world. And so it was fun for me to come to Frisco ISD because I could bring those things with me to apply them in a K-12 environment. For those of you not in K-12, it is a very collaborative world. And at EDS, I was paid for what I knew. At the school district, you're supposed to give it away. So it's a very different animal, but it's a lot funner, I think. If you look at really where my influences have come from, it goes back to the quality initiatives of Deming or initiatives of Tom Peters or Michael Hammer. And I had the opportunity to spend time with Michael Hammer several times, and so you'll find a lot of what I put into business process change goes back to that kind of initiative. We've been fortunate at Frisco ISD. We've won 2 Run Smarter awards. We did receive the Neeling Wacker Visionary Award. We've been published with APQC, American Productivity Quality Center, Tech Target Magazine, IDC, and I'm also privileged to be a member of the Laserfiche Executive Advisory Committee. Give you a little bit of background about Frisco ISD, first of all. 63,000 students today. It says 7,100 employees. I found out yesterday that it's actually 8,000. So we continue to grow very quickly. But our enrollment growth has grown 3,159% since 1993. So clearly one of the fastest growing school districts in the country. We're the 12th largest district in Texas. We have 42 elementary schools, 17 middle schools, 10 high schools. At one point we opened 3 high schools year to year to year. So, and we have number 11 under construction now and number 12 is under design. Our other facilities we have Child Development Center, we have Technology Annex, we have Memorial Stadium, we have 3 transportation centers, a print center, and we also have a lot of partnerships that we leverage. We have a partnership with the Frisco Rough Riders, the Star Center, the headquarters for the Star over here, FC Dallas Stadium, formerly Toyota Stadium, the Ford Center at the Star with the Dallas Cowboys and the indoor football facility, and our newest relationship with PGA of America, where they're going to be moving their headquarters here and have a couple of championship golf courses, and I think you'll even see a PGA championship and a Ryder Cup there soon. So the district has a lot of things going on. We enjoy our partnerships, we leverage our partnerships, and it works out well for everyone involved. The way we look at it is really it's a matter of it's all the same taxpayer in the city and school district. Again, our numbers, enrollment growth, you can see back to 1991 have been fairly phenomenal. So, what do we do? I think this is the best drawing I can give you of what we try to accomplish, what I try to accomplish, and what I know many of you try to accomplish. It's what we all do. At EDS, we would go into a company and we would take over their processing. And we would always try to leverage that. And we would tell the people it's not about headcount reduction. But it was always about headcount reduction. It was always about the bottom line. In the school district, particularly Frisco, it is nothing to do with headcount reduction because we have plenty of things for those people to do, more value-added things in other places. And that's where we really try to put our focus is how do we take the regular tasks that are normal and we automate those. And we do that through Laserfiche, or Fiche, I guess. I tell people all the time that their opportunities are everywhere. Blindfold me. I'll throw a rock. I'll hit an opportunity. They're everywhere. I walk into someone's office to have a conversation about something totally unrelated, and I'll look down and say, what's all that paper on your desk? What do you do with that? Where's it come from? And what I find is typically a lot of swivel chair integration taking place, which is really the thing that drives me the most crazy. I think that when you look at things, you should say, if an activity brings you value, you should keep it. If it doesn't bring you value, it's waste. Label it waste, get rid of it. But waste is pervasive, it's system-wide, it's hard to remove. But business process change, and business process change through an enabling technology can make an immediate and long-term difference. So first you have to tear down the walls that separate the organizations across the enterprise. I mean, we all know who they are. In the case of a school district, processes are fairly simple. A student's got to be in school. A teacher has to be in class. You have to build an environment for them to be there. You have to have an aligned curriculum. You have to have instruction. You have to feed them. In a manufacturing environment, it's different things, but it's all basically the same things. So it's really important that you break those processes down wherever you are. And then there's the organizational barriers. We all know in the school district you have curriculum and instruction, and they work in their silo. Human resources, information technology, facilities, payroll, procurement, accounts payable, accounting, finance, child nutrition, transportation, security. Everybody is working in their little world. And they don't really communicate a lot. And they're all under the false understanding that if they take care of their stuff and everybody else takes care of their stuff, then all their stuff is good. But that's really not the way it works. Because departments operate vertically. Those silos we just described truly are silos. But work occurs horizontally. And so if I do something that saves me a dime, but down in this other department it costs them $1, we've accomplished nothing. So our goal is always to re-engineer the process and have everyone involved. Re-engineering really is the key. Implementing any significant technology solution without a focused re-engineering effort isn't worth the effort and may well be impossible. You've got to get all the different groups involved. And I've got a study here in a few minutes I'll share with you, or an initiative that we undertook, where we sat down for months working through a business process so that we could re-engineer that process, so that we could automate that process, and then we applied Laserfiche technology to that process. So the problem with a school district and also many businesses is because of the timing of things, you tend to always be building a plane in the air. There's always somebody busy. There's always HR hiring. There's always procurement buying, and there's always, the curriculum group is always, getting worked up, or transportation. And those all occur at different times of the year, so I can't pick a time of the year that I want to do that. The other thing that's important to note, and I actually had this conversation once with an executive, many years ago where he told me he wanted us to do the implementation, but he wanted to be transparent to his user group, transparent to all the departments. And I can't believe I said it, but I looked at him and I said, well, let's just don't do anything and say we did. Because if you're not going to fix it, then why are we messing with it? And so I tell people all the time, don't pave the cow path. Go through, re-engineer the work, and get it done correctly. When, after World War II, which was a long time ago now, but Edwards Deming went into Japan and came up with a new way to re-engineer business processes and provide quality. It's called Improvement for Change and for the Better. It applies basically what we call today Lean Six Sigma, and combines making work better and doing it faster. And although this originated in the manufacturing industry, it really applies to all industries. And the key here is, relating back to Laserfiche, if you can re-engineer it, Laserfiche can do it. With Laserfiche, you can do everything from buying bathroom supplies to improving graduation rates. And we've got examples of where we've done some of those things already. But Lean Six Sigma is based on 4 keys. First, delight your customer, both internal and external, with speed and quality. Improve the process. Work together for maximum gain and base decisions on data and facts. So, as I said, it's all about the process. Deming said, if you can't describe what you're doing as a process, then you don't know what you're doing. And that's a little harsh, but it's true. And I have that conversation almost every day when someone calls and asks for something. Like I said, it's a harsh statement, but to be fair, he also said a bad system will beat a good person every time. So I think when you go in and you start looking at how you're going to address some of the opportunities, then I think you have to start by understanding the basic approach of Lean Six Sigma. First of all, you have to define who your customer is. You have to figure out, what their requirements are or what their deliverables are. And you've got to figure out a way to deal with that with speed and quality. Once you understand who the customer is, next steps to improve the process to meet their needs. You've got to work together. This is one of the hardest parts because you really have to work with all the groups, even the ones you don't think are directly tied to the project you're working on. And you've got to base all decisions on data and facts, not I think that or it feels like or it could be. You got to remember the silos. And you have to fight through them. The 5 basic laws and the overriding point for everybody to understand is customers are important, internal and external. Speed, quality, reduce expense are directly linked. You have to eliminate the variation and defects and focus on the process flow. Data is critical to making sound business decisions, and people have to work together across the enterprise to make it work. So, a lot of really cool pictures. People understand I want to save paper. When I first brought Laserfiche to the district as a proposal, I didn't tell them, hey, it can do workflow, and we can use it to integrate, and we can use it to do all these other things. I just said, we need to reduce the amount of paper, because I knew they'd understand the paper issue. But again, opportunities are everywhere. There's never been a department I've visited that I haven't found something that we could improve. And once we started educating people, once they started to understand what the system was capable of doing, then they started bringing their ideas to us. And that's when we really started accelerating the process. But the key was they have to understand what it's capable of doing. So I went out and I sat down with every organization, and I explained to them the tools we were bringing on board. I explained to them what it could do. And then I sat back and I waited for them to embrace the idea. Because if they were interested in doing it, I was interested in helping them. If they weren't, then there wasn't a lot we could do. The issue becomes sometimes once they come to the conclusion that the process is broken, they don't want to take the time to fix it. They say, I don't have time to fix it. And what I try to explain to them is they really don't have time not to. We encourage everyone to look at the possibilities, and then it becomes a full-time job, literally keeping track of the ideas and the projects they have. But once you have an army of evangelists, you have the magic ingredient you need. Ben Hogan said, golf is a game of luck. The more I practice, the luckier I get. So we have a group of people that, as we continue to educate our district on the capabilities, they continue to bring great ideas forward. I'd mentioned earlier we were going to talk about a particular process we had dealt with. One of the first projects we did was the hiring and process, the onboarding process. And we literally spent 3 to 6 months in a room with every department going through the onboarding process, because it didn't just affect HR. It affected payroll, benefits. It affected departments who were asking for people. So this was the as-is process as we finally mapped it out. It was interesting. We would have meetings in the HR department, and everyone was so plugged in. Even the receptionist would open the door to her desk so she could sit in the conference room and go through the hiring process, because everyone was embracing the change. What we found in the as-is process is we really had 5 breakdown spots that was taking weeks and weeks to onboard someone. And we were hiring about 1,000 people a year and having to offboard, another 600 people a year. So we really needed a process that could work more effectively. We mapped it out. We identified the breakdown points. We identified a certain area that we said that's out of scope for what we're going to try to do as far as our automation. And then we came up with a new process that could be built into Laserfiche for the onboarding. You really do not want to start a business development activity without first mapping it out. Because what will happen is the group will come back and again, you're building the plane in the air. They're requesting changes and things. So if you look at this map, it's always interesting to look at because this was the step map. This is how many steps it took to onboard one person. The folder would move around from desk to desk to desk. If you think about the activities, we averaged conservatively 346 steps to onboard every individual within the district. And if you can map that out and you come up with some big gigantic number, big waste of time. But the real bottom line was, if you were hired as a teacher and you wanted to give your notice, but you hadn't heard anything specific yet from the district other than they told you they hired you or were going to hire you, you would call and say, hey, I need to know where I am in the hiring process. Whoever was unfortunate enough to pick up the phone would then get up and walk around from desk to desk to desk looking for your folder in a different pile somewhere. And eventually, you'd find it. You'd find that you were waiting on them for a document, or you're waiting on something from the state. And then you would tell them, yeah, we're waiting on this, and so everything's good. And you take the folder back and put it back where it goes, and then you go back to work. Well, that 15 minutes of time, you're never going to get back. So this was how we focused on the improvement. It's now a matter of everything's automated. The superintendent can't hire somebody for the district without going through our process. And the communications that takes place are all automated. They're all emails. We'll send them out to your personal email until we get you credentialed, and then we'll send your credentials to you via email. You'll go online, you'll fill out all your, take all your surveys and things, and so all that takes place now external to the system. It's even funny, we hired a new CFO a few years ago, and word got out that we were hiring this new CFO and this is who it is. And the director, the assistant superintendent from that department came down to say, look, your team shared this information, and we didn't want to make it public yet. I said, well, I can't believe my team did that, because all this stuff happens primarily behind the scenes, and turns out that they had requested a new letterhead from the superintendent's office, which identified the CFO, and the procurement department was the one that had identified that we had a new CFO and started researching it. So you can't hire anybody through the district without it going through our system. So our partnership with DocuNav is in its eighth year now. We signed the agreement in 2012. We have 300 full licenses and 10,000 participant licenses. We occasionally hire them to do development projects for us and support us. And we are essentially deployed at every level within the district now. There really is not a department that we do not touch in some way. And I often find myself reminding myself that Laserfiche is not the solution for every issue. We have other applications and other tools we can use. So I tell myself all the time, don't be a hammer looking for a nail. But if it's a duck, if it walks like a duck and sounds like a duck, it's probably a duck. So we have a number of times identified things that Laserfiche can do for us to help the district. Our servers are on site. We have about 10 million documents, 3.2 terabytes in the repository. Our business applications are on 10.2. Our new student files are on 10.4. And I will acknowledge that we're having some issues with some of the search response times now, so we're going to be working on that. But we do use all the tools that are available to us. Departmentally, every group is involved, and we use the tool in all of these areas, frankly. So it's pretty broad within the district now. Document imaging, archiving, forms, workflow, integration, connector, quick fields, business process, roles, security. And I have about a 10-member team. Only about 3.5 would be considered Laserfiche programmers, but we're accomplishing a lot there. And the key is, if you don't know how to manage your resources, then you'll never have enough. So it's important that you manage through the people that you have. School districts are notorious for having all these different applications, all these different platforms. A principal at a high school wants something special. They typically go get it, and nobody taps the brakes on them. And so you wind up having these things everywhere. What we do is we actually use Laserfiche and SQL integration layer to integrate all these tools. So we have an e-school system and a student system and a finance system from the same company, and they don't talk to each other. So we talk together for them and bring that to them. My advice as far as planning for the future is your foundation's important. Don't overload the infrastructure, and look for an industrial strength solution. I think Laserfiche is that industrial strength solution. And one of the things I really like about the company is that what you'll find in the industry as a whole is typically this leapfrogging effect. This software is really good. Somebody else comes and gets better. And then the first one comes in and comes back. What I find at Laserfiche is they're all very hungry. And if you go out there and you meet with their developers and their programmers, you'll find that they are all very aggressive, and they all want to keep moving forward as quickly as possible. So they tend to stay ahead of the technology curve. And as we all know, technology is moving very quickly. Who knows what this is a picture of? 1956, IBM loading it onto a truck. It's a 5 megabyte hard drive. Pretty amazing. Weighed about a ton. Size of 2 refrigerators. And then in 1981, you could buy a 10 megabyte hard drive for only about $3,300. So things continue to change very quickly. So things your community needs to understand. Remember, I go back to you want your community to be evangelists. You want them to be bringing the ideas to you. I'm never the smartest person in the room, as you all can tell. And so you know that those good ideas come from other people. You know, I can stand at the top of the stairs and I can shout what we can do. But I invest a lot of time, and hopefully there's some folks here today from Frisco. I invest a lot of time trying to explain to all the team members at every level what the system's capable of doing, because I need them to bring back ideas and understand what we can help solve. Workflow can be used as an integration layer between systems. It doesn't have to be tied to a form or a document. It can generate actions based on listening to a cue. You can search documents easily. If you look at an example I have for had a lady in procurement who came to me and said, I need to get every invoice for XYZ from the last year, and I need a physical copy of it, and I need to put it into a PDF. And I said, okay, I can do that for you. I mean, even I could do that for her. And so I said, well, how were you going to do this before? And she said, well, I was going to go into each one in our finance system, open them up, print them, and once I printed a stack of about 1,000, I was going to feed them back into a scanner and put them into a single PDF document. I said, how long would that take you? And she said, oh, I'll be at least a week. I said, give me 15 minutes. So in 15 minutes, I gave her the document she wanted. It's a matter of educating them about what's possible. Customized forms can be used to launch any business process. Documents can be searched by multiple records. Your community needs to know documents can be redacted, highlighted, maintained with integrity. Security can be managed at every level. When we first started moving all the HR documents over to Laserfiche, we just built a new building. We had this tornado-proof, fireproof room, and it was full of documents. That room's now a really nice conference area. But we started scanning these documents. And my director, my assistant superintendent came to me and said, well, what happens if, you know, where are the documents at? I said, well, they're stored, you know, in this facility here on these hard drives. He said, well, what happens if that building gets hit by a tornado? I said, well, okay, well, we've got them backed up over at the other building too. We've got them both places. He said, what happens if the tornado comes through and takes out both buildings? I said, what happened a year ago if a tornado came through and we were picking up papers in Little Elm that, you know, were documents we really needed to run our business? So it's amazing the process you have to go through to educate people on how much more effective it is. Electronic documents are so much easier to protect from destruction, natural disaster. As I said, we tell people at Frisco ISD all the time, it's not about headcount reduction. I don't want them to get nervous and think they're going to be put out of a job, because we have plenty of things for them to do. When we look at our savings, departmental savings, and Laserfiche has always asked me to put a number on it, and I always refuse to do it, of how much we're actually saving. I do have one case study, or one example, though. Our accounts payable department has grown by 40% since we implemented Laserfiche, as far as the volume in which it processes. 40% growth, and we're doing that with 25% less people. So our accounts payable process, where we reconcile the invoices and pay the bills, is a perfect example of savings. And I'm sure those savings exist in everything we've done. It's really one of the criteria before I'll decide to do something. It provides common integration opportunities. We can reduce the cost of paper. We can, the amount of lost productivity for looking for a file, physical storage costs. So we've got some really nice conference rooms now and some office space. The access to sensitive student data. We're now in the process of moving our student data over to Laserfiche, which is 63,000 students. We've got a plan in place. It's going to take several years, but we're looking forward to that. We no longer have to transport the documents. We no longer, we're going to start emptying out our storage area or warehouse. We can view, print, all the things that you want your people to know. And it's always interesting giving this talk to you in the room because you already know all this. So what was the point? The point is you really need to motivate the masses. You need to find a way to get the people out in your company, out in your school district, out in your business to want to embrace this. You want to find them, ones that are organizationally ready, have an interest in timing for change. Develop a high-level schedule, begin the business unit analysis. As I said, I sat down with every department. I explained to them what was going to be possible, what we were going to be able to do, and I waited for them to respond. And that's why the last note there, don't try to push a rope. Focus on those already motivated. People would always ask me, how do you prioritize? I said, well, it's interesting because priorities kind of make up themselves. The people who really want to engage and really want to do this, they're ready to go. But build commitment, look for climate change, get the organizations to participate, implement, sustain, do it all over again, and do it all over again. So 28 years at EDS, a lot of Ross Pro quotes, but this is one of my favorite. He said he always wanted to be a pearl, that most perfect stone made through nature. And he realized, if you know Ross Pro, he was about this tall, and he was never going to be a pearl. And so he said, well, perhaps I can be the oyster that creates the pearl, that most perfect stone through nature. And then he came to the realization he could never be the oyster as well. But he resolved himself to being the grain of sand that irritates the oyster, that makes the pearl. So I would encourage all of you to go out there and irritate the heck out of your team members and everyone else. And we tried to build an organization, I call it organic growth. We started at what essentially was 1.0, and we encouraged people to go out and learn business process change. What is a SIPOC? What is DMAIC? How do you map that out? And if someone comes to me now and they want to have a new project, I sit down with them and I say, okay, let's take 10 minutes and build a SIPOC for it. That's all it really takes. And let's start piecing things together. You educate them on how to go through that process. And then they educate their people on how to go through that process, and then they educate their people. And I will tell you today, I have some successes in this and some failures. But if you can try to always take it back to that, you're always better off. And everybody's, I'm sure, has seen this slide. The idea that it is our digital transformation model journey. Where are we in that? We are somewhere on all these. We are digitized in some cases, and we are transformed in some cases. We've implemented so many different things in so many different departments, whether it be student transfer requests or homeless reporting, or whether it be accounts payable, invoice reconciliation, HR onboarding, all those places, we've got something everywhere. And so we fall somewhere in all these, but I'm proud to say we have several that are at least in phase 4. In our case, it's kind of the end of the beginning. We've worked to instill a culture of business process improvement and technology enablement. We encourage ideas and hope those grow organically. We streamline workflow and business process between departments and employees. We look for better use and added value to our human resources wherever we can, and we try to eliminate duplication of effort. Electronic documents are protected by the network, establish groundwork for best practice in business process automation, but our real success comes through integration, automation. How do we eliminate that swivel chair integration activity? And I'll leave you with one last thought. It is a marathon, not a sprint. Departments or companies or school districts will contact me and say, okay, we want what you have. And I tell them, you've got to start small. Pick something easy. I think one of the first things we did was we sent every employee a birthday card. But everything you do improves and you build on it next. Start small, think big, find a great partner. I think DocuNav is that. Train your team. If there's anybody from my team here who is not receiving training, it's your fault, not mine. I will get you the training. All you have to do is tell me you want it. And then explore the possible and get your teams to help you with that growth activity. I appreciate your time, your indulgence today. As I said, I'm guessing everyone in this room knew everything I just told you. But the message is go back and tell all the people that don't know. And go back and have them become part of that progression of moving forward. So thank you all very much for your time.